Jungkook didn't move. Taehyung didn't either. The silence between them was thick, charged with something neither of them could name, something that pressed against Jungkook's ribs and made it hard to breathe. Taehyung's hand was still on his chin, thumb barely grazing his jaw. It wasn't forceful, wasn't demanding, just there, grounding him. Jungkook should push him away. He should end this. But he didn't. Because some part of him, some deep, broken part, needed this. Needed him. Taehyung's voice was quiet when he spoke. "You're thinking too much," Jungkook swallowed. "And you're not thinking at all." Taehyung's lips curled into a small, tired smile. "For once, I don't want to." Jungkook hated how much he understood that. Hated how easy it was to let his guard slip when Taehyung looked at him like this, like he mattered, like he was something more than just the mess of contradictions he had become. He exhaled shakily. "This doesn't change anything." Taehyung's fingers twitched against his skin. "Maybe not." His eyes darkened. "But it could." Jungkook clenched his fists. "It could." And that terrified him more than anything. Because if he let himself fall back into this, back into Taehyung, what would stop them from ending up right where this started? Broken. Exhausted. Wanting something they couldn't have. Taehyung seemed to read the hesitation in his silence, because his expression shifted, softening, but not retreating. "I'm not asking you to forget everything, Jungkook." His voice was quiet, steady. "I just need to know if there's still a part of you that—" Jungkook cut him off. "There is." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Taehyung inhaled sharply, eyes widening just slightly. Jungkook felt his chest tighten. His hands curled at his sides. He had admitted it. The one thing he had been trying so hard to ignore. He still felt something. Maybe he always would. Taehyung's voice was barely above a whisper. "Then don't run." Jungkook shut his eyes. He wanted to run. But his feet stayed planted. His body, his stupid, traitorous body, stayed close. Taehyung's fingers ghosted down his arm. "Just for tonight," Jungkook exhaled. "Just for tonight." Taehyung nodded, eyes searching his. "No promises. No expectations. Just stay." Jungkook's throat felt tight. He should say no. He should walk away. But for the first time in years, he didn't want to be alone. So, against every rational thought in his head, against everything, Jungkook whispered, "Okay." Jungkook regretted at the moment the word left his lips. Okay. It wasn't supposed to be this easy, to fall back into Taehyung's orbit like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. And yet, as Taehyung's fingers brushed against his wrist, warm and familiar, Jungkook didn't pull away. Not when Taehyung led him to the couch. Not when the silence between them settled into something almost comfortable. Not when Taehyung exhaled softly and said, "You can leave whenever you want." Jungkook clenched his jaw. "Then why am I still here?" Because a part of him wanted to stay. Maybe he always had. Taehyung's voice was quieter when he spoke again. "I do not expect you to forget everything, Jungkook." His gaze was steady. "But I won't pretend I don't miss you." Jungkook swallowed hard. He should say something. He should tell Taehyung that missing him wasn't enough. That wanting him wasn't enough. But instead, what came out was, "I don't know what I'm doing." Taehyung's lips curled, just slightly. "You don't have to," Jungkook huffed, shaking his head. "You make everything sound so simple." Taehyung's smile faded. "It's not simple." His voice was softer now, more vulnerable. If it were, we wouldn't be here. Jungkook's fingers curled into his sleeves. They'd been here before. In this space between almost and too late. But this time, Jungkook wasn't sure which side of the line they would land on. Taehyung shifted beside him, leaning back against the couch. He didn't try to close the space between them. Didn't push for more. He just waited. And that, more than anything, made Jungkook's chest tighten. Because this was the one thing Taehyung had never been good at. Waiting. Jungkook exhaled slowly, forcing himself to look at him. And if I stay, Taehyung didn't hesitate. Then I won't ask for more. Jungkook hated how much he believed him. But the truth was, he was the one who didn't trust himself. Because staying meant opening a door he wasn't sure he could close again. And yet, for tonight, for just tonight, maybe that didn't have to be a bad thing. So, Jungkook let his shoulders relax. Let his head tilt back against the couch. And for the first time in years, he let himself rest. Jungkook woke to the sound of soft breathing. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. The room was dim, bathed in the warm glow of a lamp, and the air smelled faintly of vanilla and something distinctly Taehyung. Then he felt it, warmth pressed against his side, steady and familiar. His breath hitched. He turned his head, just slightly. Taehyung. Fast asleep. Jungkook's chest tightened. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. But he hadn't left. And that was the problem. His fingers twitched against the fabric of the couch. He could feel the heat of Taehyung's arm resting too close to his own, the quiet rise and fall of his breathing. Jungkook swallowed hard. He should move. Should leave. But instead, he just watched. Taehyung looked different in sleep, softer, younger. Like the weight he always carried had been lifted, if only for a little while. Jungkook hated the way it made his chest ache. Because for a long time, he had been the one to give Taehyung that kind of peace. And now? Now, he was the reason it had been taken away. His throat felt tight as he shifted, just barely. But even in sleep, Taehyung felt it. A small crease formed between his brows, and before Jungkook could pull away, fingers curled around his wrist, gentle but firm. Jungkook froze. Taehyung's lips parted, voice barely a whisper. Stay. Jungkook sucked in a sharp breath. Because it wasn't conscious. It wasn't intentional. And that made it worse. Because it meant Taehyung still wanted him here, even when he wasn't awake enough to lie about it. Jungkook's fingers twitched beneath Taehyung's grasp. He should pry himself away. He should run. But he didn't. Instead, he let out a shaky breath. And for the second time that night, against all logic, all reason, Jungkook stayed. Jungkook woke up to an empty space beside him. The warmth was gone, replaced by the coolness of the couch fabric. He blinked, disoriented, trying to gather his bearings. His body felt stiff, like he hadn't moved in hours, but the absence beside him felt like a gaping hole. Taehyung was gone. Jungkook's heart sank, a wave of panic rushing over him. He sat up quickly, scanning the room for any sign of the man who had silently filled the space with his presence. The soft, peaceful atmosphere of the night before felt like a distant memory. His phone buzzed, breaking the silence. He picked it up, the familiar name flashing across the screen. Taehyung. Taehyung, I'll be in my office in 30 minutes. You can leave if you want. Jungkook's heart beat faster as he stared at the message. The words were so detached, So cold. Just a simple statement that made everything feel like it was over before it even began. Leave if you want. It wasn't a question. It wasn't an invitation. It was a dismissal. Jungkook's throat tightened. He had expected this, hadn't he? Of course, Taehyung wasn't going to let him stay. This wasn't real. None of it had been. He was just another fleeting moment, something Taehyung could discard when he was done. But still, the vulnerability in Taehyung's voice from last night lingered in Jungkook's mind. Taehyung had wanted him. Even if it was only for a few hours. Just for tonight. Jungkook clenched his fists. He wasn't sure if he was angry at Taehyung for treating him like this, or angry at himself for allowing it to happen. But what was he supposed to do? He had been running for so long, pretending that everything between them was just a mistake. That Taehyung wasn't the one who had broken through all his defenses. That none of it mattered. But it did. It always had. Jungkook stood up and grabbed his jacket, his fingers shaking. He wasn't going to let this happen again. He wasn't going to keep letting Taehyung make him feel like this. And yet, despite his anger, his feet carried him toward the door. He didn't even think about it. He just went. Taehyung was waiting in his office, his back to the door when Jungkook arrived. The tension in the room was palpable, but there was an odd stillness to it. Jungkook stood at the door, not saying a word. Finally, Taehyung turned around, his eyes meeting Jungkook's with an unreadable expression. "Did you change your mind?" Taehyung asked, his voice low, too calm. Jungkook swallowed, his mouth dry. "I'm not going anywhere, Taehyung." Taehyung didn't respond immediately. His gaze flickered to the floor, and for a moment, Jungkook saw a hint of vulnerability there, a brief crack in his carefully constructed walls. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by the usual coldness. "You're sure about that?" Taehyung asked softly, the challenge in his voice unmistakable. Jungkook took a step forward. His heart pounded in his chest. "Yes," he whispered. The words felt heavy, like a weight settling on his shoulders. But there was something else in them too. Something he hadn't said in a long time. "I'm not leaving,"